cut half of your book in half, or half of your poem, or half of your life story, what parts of that story would you keep in there so people can know who you are? That felt really poetic, but like that's real. Like if you had to give somebody your life story, what parts of that story would you give? You know what I'm saying? So they can still understand who you are. So yeah, I'm about to do that. Also, another thing is that your poem makes sense. Like sometimes I feel like we write poems and we go on these long tangents and they really don't say anything at the end. Like there's some good bars, there's some good metaphors, some good something, but we don't say anything. Sometimes we get too caught up in literary devices so much I think we forget the piece. At the end of the day, a poem would score higher for its impact and what it does to the audience than a poem that has 12 onomatopoeias or 12 haikus or whatever inside of them. Like, and that's just real. And then is the poem unique? What about this poem, you know, stands out? A lot of us, I'm going to use police brutality as an example. A lot of us write police brutality poems and say the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't mean to sound, what's the word? I don't mean to sound like it's insensitive to the subject, but it's also hard for people who are living it and experiencing it to hear the same thing over and over again, because we know already. We know that it's a problem that exists. We know that it's a problem that really hasn't changed much. We know that it's a problem in our news, in our media, in our everything. But what are you saying right now on this stage about this topic that I have not heard? You know, what are you giving to me? What are you conveying? Think about it like that. That's the same thing with domestic violence. All these topics that we talk about, all these pieces that we perform, what are we saying in these pieces that make them unique? And this does not mean that you can't do poems related to this topic. It just means, how are you going to take this topic and convince me of something else? So yeah, I'm going to give you guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this whole piece. It's really, really short, and then I'm going to read you a piece of it to just explain the difference. I got time to do that? Okay. So this piece is called, it does not have a name, but we're just going to go. Black boys are endangered species, and I don't want any more gloomy days. 6 in handcuff, 8 and assaulted, 12 and charged, 15 and drowned. The common denominator is that they were all black. Black boys are made into offerings for America. Black girls are forgotten. Little black boy dies and the media raves about them being criminals. I know black boys who have drowned and no one has ever tried to save them. Where is his space, his safe space? He's a martyr. He knows hunger better than his alphabet, knows gentrification better than his times table, knows at 5 the streetlights come on and he can't be a kid anymore. I tell them, do not make fun when he scarfs food down like he's eating for 2. He's compensating for the meal he sacrificed to give over to his little brother later, while being lectured while being lectured by his father on it being a dog-eat-dog world. Restraint is key in survival. This is a man's world, no room for religion. He doesn't know God exists to pray to, doesn't know church, only knows men tattooed and keep God first. How you teach him prayer works. Don't we love our black boys? So why we kick them like buckets? See black boys that die and don't hear the I love you until after the burial whispers like, I love you, TJ, and I wish I would have told you more, and I wish we could have had more time because you were my baby and I should have protected you. See, graveyards have become the new clinics for black moms birthing brown babies. How do we convince black boys that they matter before they drift too far into the sun, before we can't see them anymore? How do we convince black boys they matter when racists patrol them? America raises black boys, killed off that they can no longer be exploited. What happens when breathing makes them brute? What happens when breathing makes them brute? When society forgets to let black boys live, let black boys dream, let black boys feel, let black boys cry, when they are no longer just an endangered species, just trophies to wear on white men's neck for hunting sport, and a museum for us to remember only what they once were to us. So, thank you. Let's give that one more moment. So, I did this on purpose. At the beginning of the poem, I mentioned black girls